everyone, welcome back to another episode of Five Nights at Freddy's characters as Pokemon. I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me Stern, and today we've got an exciting episode for you. So I make it no secret my distaste for fire starters. Get it out of here. But after giving Monty and Roxanne such feral-looking designs, I figured if we're gonna do a fire starter, why not do something different? After all, I may be Glamrock Freddy's superstar, but he is mine. And so without much further ado, let's hop into our first form for this fire starter based on Glamrock Freddy. I wanted to make sure that it felt cute and fun. All starters really have an energy, a personality, and an emotion tied to them, and I wanted to treat this the same. I thought given that Freddy is your companion and your associate throughout most of the game, I wanted to capture that. How do I make it feel fun and friendly? I thought about giving it this little fiery tuft on its ear and this fiery microphone that it could use to sing and dance and shout and all that fun stuff, and even gave it this fun little bow tie. I was throwing around a lot of ideas all over the place and just kind of kept adding on to what I already had, even going as far as giving it this cute little fang, which I just absolutely adore and stays throughout most of the different forms that we go through. And yeah, I just went nuts with it. So many different ideas. I wanted to incorporate kind of the mouth on the belly that we get in Ruin, and I wanted to incorporate these little fiery tufts of fur that really emphasize that it's a fire type, because I wanted to stick with the brown coloring that he's so iconic for, brownish orange, I guess I should say. So I just went in kind of throwing absolutely every concept that I could possibly think of for this design onto a single character, and then went into coloring it. And I thought, okay, I know kind of where I'm going with this. I've got some ideas, I've got some concepts, and I was feeling confident, right? Confident? Is that the word? No, I feel like I was doing a bit too much, and I really didn't have a ton of direction. So, end of the day, I ended up... yeah, I started over. I took kind of what I've learned from that previous iteration and decided to just kind of build on that while taking away some of the things that made it feel just a little bit too busy. Rather than focusing on this flaming microphone and trying to incorporate maybe a top hat and the body shape that insinuated the Freddy from Ruin, I went with something a lot more simple. I took the bow tie and expanded that alone. Everything else I kind of kept some of the aspects, but really focused in on that bow tie. Keeping that ear with the little flame, because I felt like that was just a little bit of personality that harkened back to the single earring that Freddy wears. Changing the body shape, of course keeping that fang because we're not going to lose it, it's staying, I love it, it's never going away, and it's just a part of the character that I thoroughly enjoy, but moving some of that other stuff around. I kept the eye mask and just actually gave that a little bit more definition, a little bit more detail, turned that body mouth into instead what almost felt like a cummerbund type of style to the stomach, really made him feel like he was dressed for the occasion. Kept those what were gonna be red gloves and red boots because I like that concept and I think it separates out Freddy from just regular bear. And I think keeping a lot of that stuff, moving some around and just kind of diminishing some really aided in the design process. One of the things that I've had to learn from being an artist and something that hurts so very much, I've seen people actually talk about this type of stuff in the Discord before. Hey, I worked really hard on this section, so I wanted to make sure that it stayed in the pose of the drawing. Some stuff's gonna be left behind. If you watch videos of famous artists, and I'm talking about like the Van Goghs and the Monets, you'll see that very often they'll paint the whole background just to cover it with a hill or a rock or something. Do they consider that a negative? Do they consider that a downside of painting? No. It ensures that things kind of work in the proper tones and proper kind of alignment that they should, and I kind of tried to do that here. I built that whole body and knew it was gonna get covered by this giant bow tie, and I'm okay with that. You kind of got to be okay with that. And losing what you worked so hard on in the previous version isn't a failure. It's a way that you learned it's not gonna work. It's a learning experience. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a very painful, very harsh, and very terrible learning experience so that you can come up with Infledi. Infledi is our vocalist Pokemon. It is a fire type. For the shiny, I went with more of those helpy type of colors just because I had a ton of people asking for Helpy, and I don't know what to do with it apart from making what would now be, what, a 4th or 5th bear Pokemon for this fictional region, so instead I used that for the shiny. But he's gotta grow, he's gotta change, he's gotta evolve, and so I went with a new type of figure. As it evolves from its first stage into its second, I wanted something that felt just a little bit more robust, a little bit more rotund. So I used this barrel shape and kept a lot of the same ideas that I had in the previous version, but now with just more space to work with, which ended up making him look like a Disney bear, but I digress. I went with a lot of this stuff and just kind of played with it. I actually got to bring in the top hat a little bit and make him more of a performer. Story-wise and lore-wise, I picture it that he's kind of the young and excited kid who wants to be an actor, wants to be a performer in some way or another, and now is finally kind of getting his chance. But he's almost that nervous comedian type, but, you know, as a singer. So I have him here holding his microphone with his bow tie kind of blowing and billowing in the wind, still just a little bit too big, still just a little bit uncomfortable, bringing in those fangs. Now he has 2 cute little fangs, and just evolving a lot of the concepts that were there. I also diminished a couple of the concepts, because something that I've learned in my time studying Pokemon design is that stuff doesn't always have to just get bigger, stuff doesn't have to just expand more. So in the previous version, you'll notice that he actually has little cubby paw feet. In this version, they become much more stump-like, and that's okay. Just because it changes to be something that appears less or simpler doesn't mean that you've lost the concept. It just means that you've solidified it a little bit more. So I did that there because I think that those match really well with this larger upper body, which is only going to get larger in future evolutions, but we'll get there when we get there. I was also able to bring in some of those slight motifs that I was looking at in the first design that we did, the one that got scrapped, with the stomach here. Rather than making it appear fully as a mouth for the Ruin reference, I instead used these sharp angles to make it look almost teeth-like. It may be hard to notice, but I picture it kind of almost as one of those little Easter eggs that you see in Pokemon designs. Stuff like how Remoraid is shaped like a pistol, which then turns into Octillery, which is vaguely shaped like a tank. It's not something that's super, hyper, mega apparent, but it is still there, and it also applies just this little bit of lore and backstory that makes you feel like this Pokemon was a little bit more well thought out than previously thought. So I kept that motif, again kept the red gloves because, again, it just gives a little pop of color to Freddy. The hardest thing was trying to figure out what to do with that blue lightning bolt in the center of his chest and how I may incorporate that or may not incorporate it, because blue is very much not a fire color and kind of detracts from the fire starter energy. I know it's been made to work well in other designs, but it just wouldn't kind of here. I also gave him the blue eyes, which I think kind of fits, but the blue lightning bolt really applies an electric typing to something that isn't. But regardless, I'm happy with how it turned out, and we got Engulfred. Again, the vocalist Pokemon, still fire type, still having that helpy type of color scheme to it. And before we hop into our final form for our fire starter, let's look at some artwork designed by you. I don't want to do the bit. I'm cutting the bit. Over on our Discord channel, we get a ton of fan art weekly, and I want to showcase some of that here. Like these amazing pieces done by Code Fakeydex showing some of our FNAF characters in Halloween garb, plus their OC. Victor showing off Cassie and Gregory as our protagonists to the series. Porter806 creating this Fazbite fan art, which I love. And Evan the Frosty, as always, creating just amazing pieces done in reference to a lot of the different scenes in Five Nights at Freddy's and the associated games. Always love what this guy brings to the table. So if you want to showcase some of your art, head on to the Discord down in the description, where we recently just hit 500 members. What? What the 500? Yes, we hit 500 members on the Discord and 9,000 subscribers on the channel. I can't thank you guys enough for this support. And in order to try my hardest to do so, we're going to be opening up our merch store, which will be down in the description below. If you're a fan of our ARG, I just released the Porico collection there. We've got hats, we've got shirts, and that's about it right now. Hats and shirts, but keep track because there will be more coming in upcoming weeks. That'll be down in the description below. But let's get back to what you came for today, which is our final evolution of our fire starter, Glamrock Freddy. I started out by going with this head shape that I wanted to be very different, but it felt very eggy. So I decided to kind of move away from that, kind of plump out the cheeks a little bit. This whole drawing actually ended up being a big experiment in kind of starting fresh and trying again, which is really hard to do. I want to say that I had a ton of fun kind of getting to rehash the ideas, but honestly, it was a toll. It was hard, and kind of trying to find the right balance between what was Freddy, what was Pokemon, and what really fit the energy that I wanted to go for. Ultimately, I think that it kind of works out. I was able to give him that cummerbund style chest piece that also looks like it could open up and house cakes and prizes and small children inside. So I went with that and was even able to elongate that across the rest of the body to create more of a mouth shape, but still keep that almost performer tuxedo type of look. I also was able to give him his fiery hat, that big fiery microphone, and just fully emphasize the idea that this is the vocalist, this is the lead singer of the Five Nights at Freddy's band. So I'm pretty happy with it, and I know I'm gonna go ahead and get ahead of it first. I'm gonna stop the train and pump the brakes, and I'm gonna say it here. He's not normal type. I know as a vocalist Pokemon, that's gonna hurt a lot of people who say, but the normal type has all of the sound-based moves. I know. It just didn't fit right. Maybe there will be an ability that makes it so that it works out. I don't know. That's kind of up to you guys. As you know, if you've been watching this series, I leave the abilities up to you as the fans. Go down in the comments for each of these lines and let me know what abilities you think that they should have. I'm always impressed, always just blown away by what you guys are able to come up with, because honestly, it's a lot better than what I would have done. Like, really, I am not great at abilities. I'm a huge design guy, so stats is something I'm trying to get better at. If you've seen my Amazing Digital Circus video, you'll know that there were some stat goofs with characters who shouldn't have been stronger than one another, being stronger than one another. So yeah, stuff like that, but I'm trying to get better. Again, I'm a design guy. I love the designs of Pokemon, and I love the designs of fakemon and elements that go into building them, so that's kind of where my focus is. So if you want to help me out, make this Pokemon feel a little bit more fleshed out and fulfilled, head down into the comments, give me some abilities, and maybe even some dex entries. I love reading those and how you guys are able to intertwine the lore of the franchise into the Pokédex itself. It's phenomenal, and I can't thank you enough. You guys are awesome. So much great stuff from you guys, and I love it. You can find me at the Discord down below. You can also find me at the Ko-fi and the Patreon, but the Discord's the best place to reach me. I'm often on there. I try to comment as often as I can, and often find myself getting pulled into conversations that I otherwise wouldn't have been a part of. For example, a user by the name of JT launched this campaign on who's the best Transformer, or who's the favorite Transformer. I'm a huge Transformers fan, so I immediately jumped in and have tried to be a part of that conversation as much as I can, because I love Transformers. Haven't seen the new one yet. I may. It twists up the lore a little bit. I'm not super happy with how they did that, but I digress. We can talk about it in the Discord down below. Moving on, this is Perforupt. Perforupt is a Pokemon designed off of Five Nights at Freddy's Glamrock Freddy, so his name is Performance and Erupt. For the shiny, I brought in some of those darker colors just to give him a little bit more energy, give that flame a little bit more vibrance. You'll notice he's gained the dark typing. I said he wasn't going to get normal, so he has the dark typing there. I hope that's okay. I hope you're happy with that. Gives him some of those bite type abilities, again referencing that huge mouth on his chest and the Ruin storyline. So with our starters done, I guess the next question is, who are you going to pick for your team? Will it be Wolvine, will it be Perforupt, or will it be Montigator? The question is yours to answer, and I'm super excited to hear what you say in the comments down below. But given that these are starters, I think it's important to remember that these forms only come from training, friendliness, and just kind of keeping them as an eager companion. So I guess the real question is, which of these guys is going to be your companion? Who do you choose out of that first Pokeball at Professor Matt Pat's lab? And I've got to say, after this episode, going through fire and learning to love this design, despite how much that I don't like fire types, I think it's pretty obvious that I would pick Gumgator. Gumgator is the best. He's best boy. He's wonderful. Look at his chompy little mouth. Look at how wonderful he is. I would never pick anyone else. Fire type is not my favorite, will never be my favorite. I'm gonna move past them, and you can, whatever you feel, I don't know. Pick your favorite, put it down in the comments below. Mine is Gumgator, that's who I'm picking. But with all that said and out of the way, the Discord down below, the merch shop now open, it sounds like you know where to find me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.